welcome to another episode of How to Be a Great Player. Today we're looking at NPCs and how to use them to make yourself a better player, and by extension to have a better character and a better experience in the world that you're playing in. So the GMs are busy looking at how to make NPCs a lot more interesting for you to work with. But it swings both ways. If you are not using the NPCs that are around you, well, why should your GM create interesting ones? If you're going to just walk straight through every town that you come across, ignore every starship hail that comes in, well, what's the point of having NPCs? And if you look mechanically at what is the point of an NPC, well, it is to deliver information to your character, and it's to help build a story. So by ignoring NPCs, well, quite frankly, you're just ignoring story opportunities. And that is not a very good player move, in my opinion. So how do you work with NPCs to get the most out of the NPCs that the GMs have hopefully been slaving away on to create as interesting an opportunity for you as humanly possible? Well, the first thing you need to do is actually engage with them. And oftentimes people simply stand in a clump in the middle of the starship, and the leader of the group within the player circle will go off and he will ask the question directly of the captain. I have got a few players who go, well, yes, they're busy talking to the captain, but I want to talk to the second janitorial assistant because maybe they've got a different insight. And that's a very good thing to do. So look around and ask around, engage with NPCs. At worst, the GM will simply say they ignore you. At best, suddenly you get this interaction with an interesting NPC that your GM has got a whole world built around, and you can start to experience it. You may even find that the mission that you're on goes in a totally different direction simply because you spoke nicely to an NPC. Ask questions of them. Find out about their lives. They're those wonderful questions that you've asked of your PC character, so time now to ask the NPCs the same thing. Your GM might be doing some tap dancing, but ultimately you're going to end up with a much better story experience, simply because you've now engaged with somebody else, aside from the other characters. So ask questions of the NPCs. Oh, where are you from? Have you been here long? Have you noticed anything strange? Don't necessarily just jump straight into mission-appropriate questions. When last did you see the Star Cruiser moving through this environment? Has the captain been acting strange? Is the king under the influence of a vampire thrall? Those kind of questions will not make for a very good story because, well, you don't really walk up to a random person and say, how do I get to the next level? You start a conversation. You engage with them. And it's a to and fro process. If the NPCs are asking you questions, you should be answering them. And if you can't answer them because that part of your character is missing, well, what a wonderful opportunity for you to add it in. Listen to your answers and go, well, I didn't actually think of that. When the NPC asks you, what's your favorite color? Well, I don't know what my character's favorite color is. Maybe I should, because maybe that'll start to determine how they dress. Or maybe that'll start to determine what they're attracted to. So that is something that you can use to make your character that much richer. And it's for free. Think carefully when you engage with NPCs. This whole idea of just charging in and immediately starting questions, when was the last Dark Rider through here? How many hobbits were there? Those kind of things. NPCs will all have goals. They will all have objectives to achieve in their own world. So perhaps it's a simple question of going up to an NPC who's carrying a large crate of something in the background and saying, hey, can I help you? What this will do, it will trigger, hopefully, in a good GM, the ability to go, oh, yeah, sure, here's a crate, thanks for helping me. I haven't seen you around, what brings you here? And then suddenly a conversation can grow out of it. So by simply thinking about how you would react if you were to see someone slaving away in a blacksmith's or very focused on repairing a computer, you can have different conversations. And ultimately, that means that you are having a better story experience. You're not just going point A, point B, point C. I've spoken to that quest giver, I've spoken to that quest giver, I've spoken to that quest giver. That's one of my big frustrations about most MMOs, or massively multiplayer online games that are RPGs. You can't just talk to everybody and find out their life story. And in finding out those stories, build a better one. Finally, not finally, listen to me, you're getting all excited, a short video, not a chance. So the next thing to think about when you are engaging with NPCs is to show respect. Very often I've got players who will come up to a general and they're privates in an army, and they'll chat to him as if he's exactly the same as everybody else. A great way to test whether your players, sorry, I'm slipping into GM mode, but to test whether you understand the hierarchy of the system is go and play a feudal Japan campaign where everyone is San or Sun or Daimo or whatever the case might be. And if you incorrectly address them, you have your head cut off. So get into character. When you're addressing this general who's fought hundreds of battles and you're this lowly recruit, think about what would you be like in that same situation. Would you be awestruck? Would you be gobsmacked? Would you be chatty? You'd probably be a little bit respectful. Well, hopefully you'd be certainly a little bit more reserved. And you hopefully definitely wouldn't interrupt the general when he was talking. So think about showing respect to NPCs. I know sometimes it's difficult because you feel that your character is the center of the story and that you are the one that the whole world should be wrapped around. Try showing a little respect from time to time, and you'd be amazed at what sometimes can happen. Of course, there are always going to be NPCs that are particularly vindictive and will be aggressive because they see that you're showing them respect. But every now and again, playing to the position the person holds in the world that your character is in will get you places that you've never imagined. Here's something that very seldom happens, and sometimes it's because the characters have moved on and they're no longer in the same area. Every now and again, go back to NPCs that you had a good connection with. Maybe there was a barkeeper who slipped you an additional drink because, well, he just liked the way you spoke. Go back to that inn after the quest and give him the details of what happened. Buy him a drink with your loot that you've managed to pick up. All that that will do is that will help build that NPC for you as the player as being someone tangible, as being someone real. And the stories that will come out of him will be even better. And hopefully your GM will pick up on it and go, hey, here is a vehicle in which I can help my players get better stories. And the more you build into those characters, the more visceral the experience, the better the story. And I know I keep on going about story, but ultimately that's why we're here, to tell a good story. Lead by example. So if you are engaging with an NPC and you're asking them a question, and they ask you a question back, answer it. I've got a lot of players who kind of just assume that the NPCs are just there to give them information. I ask 6 questions, you give me 6 answers, and then you can go away and carry on being a woodcutter or whatever the case might be. It doesn't work like that. In real life, you ask a question, the other person answers, and then they ask a question, usually related to the question you asked. Look at how they answer. Are they avoiding answering? Don't just rely on those sense motive or psychoanalysis roles to be told that the character's lying. Think about the questions that they're throwing at you. Are they questioning you about your mission? Or are they simply asking you about your everyday life? Try and really understand what the NPC is after and then give it to them. So they might have a very simple request. It might be a side quest which the GM generates on the fly because you've been asking the NPC personal questions or questions that have nothing to do with the main plot. But suddenly your story has grown even bigger, and it's all because of you. All because you took asking questions to NPCs to another level. That's our first thoughts on how to deal with NPCs. It's a fairly quick video by my standards, I will admit. But really, working with NPCs is not the job of the game master. His job is to create NPCs. Your job is to make sure that you use them. and that you don't use them like a tool, that you use them like a person. Engage with them, ask them questions, answer their questions, give and take. That's how the game works. Explore their stories. The GM has created them all. He spent sleepless nights creating backstories for every little NPC that you've just walked past because they're clearly not a quest giver. Engage NPCs and I promise you, you'll have a much more rewarding experience. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We've got a great new website that's just launched, www.baconrpg.com or www.greatgamemaster.com. They're both linked to the same website. Packed full of information on how to be a better player, on the playing system that I run, the Pathfinder system. You can watch how my players work, and they're quite an interesting bunch, let me tell you. And until next time, happy playing.